Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to the Red Mess podcast with me, Seshadri, and welcome to what is a delightful episode to be doing, to be fair. If you guys didn't know from the title, here's the news: the European Super League is dead. Yes, of course, it is an idea that I guess threatened the very basic fabric of football has been disposed of, pretty much. The Obviously, the demise started with the fact that there were rumors yesterday that there were a couple of clubs which got cold feet, or executives in those clubs who were starting to get cold feet. Jordan Henderson called a meeting of the Premier League captains to discuss their response to it, and there were a lot of other things. But in the end, what matters is that the idea did not go through, and yeah, I mean that's a good thing for football. Obviously, there's a lot of people celebrating the triumph of football against the bad guys, I suppose. It's really complicated because there are no good guys, quote unquote, in football. But in this particular case, there were people on the right side and there were people on the wrong side. Just in this case, those very same people could change sides again. You never know. That's the way things work in corporate Earth these days. I suppose. You can't even call it corporate America. But anyway, so yeah, the whole thing started. Yesterday there were rumors that clubs, especially the English clubs, were a little bit hesitant. Two of the clubs were mentioned. Initially, the names weren't mentioned, but I think it was fairly evident that it would probably be Chelsea and Manchester City, because I think, like, initially when the reports came out first about the formation of the Super League, I think Man City was the last club that was added to the name, because there were sort of uncertainties as to whether City had actually said yes to the program. I think it was more like, I'm kind of hesitant, but all the other big boys are doing it, so I just want to look cool, so I'll do it as well. I think that was kind of the perspective from City. Obviously, there was a massive protest outside of Stamford Bridge before Chelsea's game yesterday against Brighton. So, Petr Cech, in fact, had to come out and say that, guys, just let the team bust through. And see, that's the thing for me, right? You can't take out the anger out on, you can't take it out on players and club staff, because, they've been as blindsided by this as anyone else. But I guess I can understand why, you take it out on those sort of parts of the football club, because, the owners are these shady, mysterious characters who just never really come out, do they? So, you're not going to be able to take your anger out on a John Henry or a Glazer or Daniel Levy, for example. So you're going to have to take it out on someone who represents the club in some way, shape, or form. And the easiest target, I suppose, are the players, the fans. The fans find the players to be the easiest targets, and this is the same thing that happened at Leeds. When Liverpool went out to Ellen Road to play last on Monday Night Football. The fans at Ellen Road, the Leeds fans or Liverpool fans, whoever they were, they protested against players who wore the Liverpool crest on their chest, even though they had nothing to do with what was happening. Like, they had no intention of breaking away. They had no intention of forming a Super League on their own. So the idea that protesting against, but I mean, I like I said, I understand you're not gonna be able to protest directly against the owners. So that's what happened at Stamford Bridge. Obviously, massive props to the Chelsea fans. They've gone out there, they've protested, and they've made their voice heard. And Petr Cech said, just give us some time, just let us do our jobs. Just give us some time and let us do our jobs. And in 10 minutes, Chelsea came, there was news reports coming out that Chelsea wanted to pull away from the ESL. They were looking to get out of it. And soon after, City followed. And then once those two dominoes fell, you knew it was going to be hard. Like, if one of the big six sort of went back on what they promised to the ESL, you already knew it was going to be hard. But when it's two clubs, and when it's clubs with the financial pull of Man City and Chelsea, you kind of knew that the whole thing was about to fall upon itself. The whole idea of the European Super League was about to crumble upon itself. So, yeah, no surprises there. Obviously, Chelsea and City pulling out first, and then, the other four English clubs following suit, basically Manchester United, Arsenal, Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Liverpool as well. Eventually, all of them pulled out, and it's obviously spread to other clubs because once 6 English clubs had pulled out, there was no way this league was going to sustain itself. Because all you're left with are the 6 remaining clubs, 3 from Italy, 3 from Spain, and that's just not going to happen. You need, as one of the things about the Premier League is that it's obviously the most lucrative league in the world, makes the most money. So as long as you have those clubs on your side, you're good. But once those clubs fall, your whole project kind of goes, and especially when you don't have the support of the French clubs or the German clubs as well. So once those dominoes fall, it's difficult to do anything else. Eventually, obviously, other clubs have followed. So Atletico Madrid's pulled out of it. AC Milan has pulled out of it. Just about an hour ago, I think, the news was official that AC Milan had pulled out, and Inter Milan has also pulled out. So basically, the 3 teams that remain now are Juventus, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. And Juventus president Andrea Agnelli has come out saying, it's very difficult. I don't know if he's the president or chairman. I might have got the designation wrong, but he's come out and said it's going to be very difficult for the Super League to continue. It's been suspended. The key thing is here, we're all celebrating the fact that the Super League is not happening. It's just been suspended. This idea is going to come back. The idea of the European Super League is going to come back in some way, shape, or form. And when that does, we can't really be surprised because clubs have been pushing for it from a long time. I remember, I think it was Arsene Wenger who said way back, this was about a decade ago, that there were clubs pushing for the idea of a Super League. Right? It just makes no sense. The idea of a Super League, a closed league, it just really doesn't make any sense. But there are going to be clubs pushing for it. There are going to be owners pushing for it. As long as you have to understand, these are businessmen, so they want to make more money, and if there's a chance to make more money, they're going to try and push for it. So it's unfortunate, but it is the sad reality of what football has become at this point. Now, I also want to talk about the UEFA Champions League, the new UEFA Champions League format that's been proposed, the 36-team format. So for those of you who don't know, I think I've explained it a little bit in the previous episode, but the new format basically has 36 teams in the first group stage proper of the Champions League, and each team amongst those 36 are going to play 10 games. They're going to play against 10 teams of, I guess they're all going to be relatively equally matched. Going to be 10 match days, and then following which you're going to have the top 8 teams go through to the quarterfinals. Teams from 9 to 24. The top 8 teams will go to the round of 16, I think. Yeah, the round of 16, and the other 8 teams will be determined by a playoff between teams that finish between 9th and 24th in the standings. And then the winners of those 8 playoff rounds will go on to play the round of 16, then the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, and so on and so forth. A little bit complicated, I suppose, compared to the current Champions League, which is a lot simpler, group stage, round of 16, and so on. But yeah, that's the new format. It's I think it's rumored to be the brainchild of Edwin van der Sar at Ajax. Again, like I said, Sky, and I bring up Sky because they're the ones who've been rallying against this whole football. This is against the lower league clubs and so on and so forth. The new UEFA Champions League format does nothing for smaller clubs as well. The only difference is the ESL didn't do anything for smaller clubs in England or the big countries, quote unquote, whereas the new Champions League format doesn't do anything for smaller clubs in Eastern European countries, for example. So Sky is not going to raise their voice against that because, it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect clubs in England. So why should we? And that's the hypocrisy of football, isn't it? Like Gary Neville's not going to go around talking about this stuff and ranting about it passionately just because, it doesn't affect Leicester City, because it affects Bate Borisov, for example. So he's not going to do that. It makes it even harder for teams in those countries to qualify. For all of Gary's, I'd rather watch the champions of San Marino than watch Tottenham and Arsenal. Let me be very clear on this. The champions of San Marino would not get into the new Champions League. Like, no offense, or at least they'd have to fight an incredibly hard battle to get in, harder than it ever was before. So I don't understand, the whole impassioned Gary Neville rant, because I mean, you're not ranting for football. Don't call yourself the savior of football. And the same thing goes for Jamie Carragher and anyone else, really. Um, you don't call yourself the savior of football, or don't paint yourself as that. And honestly, people shouldn't paint these pundits as that, because the fact of the matter is they're not fighting for the smaller clubs. If they were, they'd be fighting for smaller clubs everywhere. They're just not. It's just because as long as your West Hams and West Broms can qualify for Europe, I don't care if Bate Borisov does not. So that is elitist in itself, in my opinion. And yeah, the new format also includes, I think, sort of an appreciation for historical greatness again. Basically the idea is that some of these places would be determined by coefficients. So if, for example, if Man United have a bad season, let's say they finish outside of Europe entirely, let's say they finish in 10th, for example, they could still play Champions League football. But if that's the only season they finished 10th, and the previous seasons they finished 2nd, 3rd, 1st, whatever. So just because of their historical legacy, and if they've done well in the Champions League before, then they could still play Champions League football. Like, this was basically designed for clubs like AC Milan, who obviously this year they're doing well, but a couple of years before, they weren't exactly up there. And the same thing for clubs like Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp have been doing well, but honestly before that we were kind of nowhere, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with this as well, but you'll not find Gary Neville raising his voice, because English clubs on the whole aren't affected, and it's not a closed league system. It's not a closed league system, but it just makes it a ton harder for somebody from Ukraine or Russia to get into the group stages of the Champions League. That's just my thoughts on it. I don't like it, honestly. I don't even like I used to, and obviously people are going to say we're going to view the past with rose-tinted glasses, and that's fine. But for me, my favorite sort of Champions League used to be when the 4th place team in England had to play the qualifiers. Like, I remember when Liverpool had to do it a few years ago against Hoffenheim. So when we had to play the qualifiers to get through after finishing 4th, I think those were some of my favorite. Those were like the best, I guess the best sort of format for the Champions League, because the teams from like smaller countries like Ukraine, for example, or Russia, or wherever, Bulgaria, for example. So they would have a shot to go through if they did well, and I really like that. Like, honestly, I really like that. I do kind of miss it. I do miss the fact that the 4th place team had to play a qualifier, because I mean, you haven't earned your right to play in the group stage just because you're 4th in England. Like, it just makes no sense. But yeah, it is what it is. These are the new formats. This is what we're going to have to get used to. This is what I'm going to have to play Football Manager with, which, oh man, it is quite annoying, isn't it? It is quite annoying. But yeah, it is what it is, man. I honestly, I don't like the new format any more than I like the ESL. Maybe slightly better than I like the ESL. But yeah, this does no good for football either. So that's that. As far as Liverpool goes, John Henry's also come out with an apology about the ESL and all of that. But honestly, I don't... Listen, I find it really hard to accept it, because you knew the backlash that was going to come. Like, you can't have been blind to it. You can't have been blind to the fact that you were going to get backlash. And because the same backlash happened for Big Picture. Let's be real. Big Picture was a domestic attempt to seize control of football, to give power to the hands of few. And this is that on a European scale. So you can't tell me that you do not expect the backlash, because these very 6 clubs, Manchester City, United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham, they were behind the whole Big Picture idea. So if that got rejected and there was so much opposition to it, what are you doing going ahead with this ESL project? Because that this is just that on a European scale. Are you really that dumb? Are you really that stupid? That's my question to John Henry. Like, are you really that stupid? And to throw players under the bus, to throw the manager under the bus before a big game like Leeds United, especially when we're chasing the top 4. Obviously, they must have thought, oh, you know what, doesn't matter anyway, because we don't care about the Champions League, which is a competition we're going to want to desert at this point. So you're telling me that you don't, like, I just don't get the mechanics of what went on in John Henry's brain. Genuinely, I just don't. Because how is he such a shrewd businessman if he's this dumb? He's got to have a team of really good advisors around him. Business advisors, anyway. Yeah, I mean, it just made no sense to me. Yeah, so coming back to, John Henry's apology, right? So he's, apologized about what happened. I honestly cannot accept it. I would rather he just leaves the club because he furloughed people and then had to do a U-turn on that. Did big picture, had to do a U-turn on that. And now he's done ESL and has had to do a U-turn on that. So this guy clearly doesn't know what football is about. This guy clearly doesn't know what Liverpool is about. He doesn't know the ethics of football, the ethos of the club. And he's out here running this. And I'm not naive to say that some random bloke from Liverpool needs to be given control of the club. Like, I'm not going to say that, but at the same time, introducing a rule like 50+1, which they have in Germany, is not a bad idea. Give fans the control that they need. You can own 49% of the club, but 51% is owned by the fans, and that's perfectly fine with me. And England needs a rule like that. Like, this is one of those instances that proved why German football, at least in terms of ownership, is really, really good. They may not have a competitive league in terms of, Bayern's dominating every single year. They may not have a league where, which has the most TV deals, which has the most TV rights and so on and so forth, which gains the most money, but they have a principle and they stick to that principle, and that's really important. And the principle is that the fans are the ultimate basis of the football club. Yes, Leipzig found a way to sort of circumvent those rules, but even they technically abide by the 50+1 rules. So, you can't really say that Leipzig have done anything to, subvert what's written down in the law, in the rule book. So yeah, 50+1 for England would not be a bad thing completely, and I would be all for it. And I think it would give fans a sense of purpose, a sense of control over the club that they love. And I think it's necessary. I think more than ever, it's been proven necessary that fans need to have control of their own football club. And if 50+1 is a way to do that, then fair play. I read somewhere that the government is, that the British government is trying to, maybe introduce something that would allow fans control of their club, possibly even introducing the 50+1 rule. And I would be all for it. I do not agree with a lot of what Boris Johnson does for Britain, but I think this is one thing that would go down in his legacy as a good thing. So we'll see how that ends up. We'll see how this whole saga ends up. But I doubt this is the last we'll ever hear of the European Super League. I think whether that's 1 year from now, 5 years from now, or a decade from now, this idea will come back. And it might come back in a different way, shape, or form, but it will come back. But those are my thoughts on the ESL and what it entails for European football. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Wherever you are, stay safe, stay happy, have a great week, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.